1 year ago, my younger sister Hannah, 27F, got married to her boyfriend of 2 years, Jacob, 30M. I'm 2 years older than my sister, and we used to be close when we were kids, but after that, we just sort of drifted apart. After I moved out for college, we started speaking less, and by the time both of us had graduated and had our own jobs, we led very different and separate lives, so we didn't have much to talk about. On top of that, we had a stupid fight about something 6 years back, so we have pretty much had no contact since then. In the recent past, we would get together when our family would meet for holidays and stuff, but wouldn't exactly talk to each other. To be quite frank, I don't even remember what the fight was about. I just know that it was over something really small. It wasn't like we were out to get each other, but just didn't interact. And last year, after my dad passed away, I pretty much had nothing to do with my family. My mom was always closer to my sister, so they had their own thing going on, and whenever I tried to visit her, I would always feel very out of place, so I just started keeping to myself. I was also very busy with work, so I wasn't really connected with either of them. And then, 2 weeks ago, Hannah showed up at my place in the middle of the night and she begged me to let her stay with me because apparently, her husband had turned out to be abusive and she desperately needed somewhere to go. Even though we hadn't been particularly close for the last couple of years, I allowed her to stay with me. This seemed to be quite serious, and as a woman and her sister, I did not want to turn her away when she was asking me to help her out with something like this. She had shown up at my place with absolutely nothing, just some money, and her cards, and kept apologizing for springing this on me, but she didn't have anybody else to rely on. I had just moved into a new apartment, so she knew that Jacob would not be able to find her here and that she was safe from him. So I instructed everybody in the family not to give my address out without my approval to anybody in case they asked, since I did not want her to be found. She told me that apparently, Jacob had been controlling and manipulative right from the beginning, but after they got married, she had thought that he would stop doubting her every now and then, but he had gotten worse instead. He had forced her to cut her friends off because he did not like them and thought they were not the right kind of company for her. Recently, he had started pressuring her to even quit her job and stay at home because he thought that she needed to pay more attention to the household, and her job was distracting her from doing that. But at this point, she had put her foot down and they had been fighting about it for the last couple of weeks, and the night that she had run away, he had come home drunk and was yelling at her about the dishes in the sink that hadn't been done yet. She had said that she had been very exhausted after coming back home from work, so she hadn't found the time to do it yet. Usually, he would just argue with her, but this time, he decided to shove her, and that was the last straw. After he fell asleep, she decided to make a run for it and came straight to my place because she couldn't even think about any other place to go. I was a bit confused because I thought that she was close to our mother, so she could have gone to her instead. But Hannah told me that apparently, she had already talked to our mother about this and her advice had been shocking. She had told her that sometimes some men act this way, and she just has to deal with it because that's what married couples do. Every time they're going through stuff, she can't just admit defeat and leave because that's the easier way out, and trying to make the marriage work, it's difficult, but it's also the right thing to do according to her. And since they're married, not just dating, it's a very serious commitment and divorce is very complicated, so she should just stick it out with him. If things get bad, she can try marriage counseling, but my mother's advice, ultimately, was to stay with him, in spite of whatever she was going through. I thought that was very bad advice to give to somebody who was being treated like this on a daily basis, and I told her that she didn't need to listen to our mother. This was not the way to behave, and Jacob needed to realize that. And if he hadn't realized that even after so many years of being together, there was no way he was going to change. So I told her that I would put her in touch with a friend of mine, whose dad is a divorce attorney, and they could go ahead and do something about this. So 2 days after she came to my house, she filed for a divorce and he was served within a couple of days. Both of us had blocked Jacob right after she came to my house so he couldn't contact us. She had also spoken to my mother on the phone, and while she had been against the idea of leaving initially, after she learned that he had actually shoved her the previous night, she agreed that it was taking things way too far and she needed to leave. So we got her to block Jacob as well, and eventually, nobody had any ties with him. So for almost 1 week, I had no clue about what the reality of the situation was, and I was gladly helping Hannah out, thinking that maybe this would finally help us bond and this situation would bring us closer together as a family. However, after 1 week of no contact with Jacob, I accidentally ran into him at a restaurant near my workplace. He was there with some of his colleagues, and I was there to grab lunch. I had absolutely forgotten that his office was quite close to mine, and when I spotted him, I started to leave, but he saw me there too, and he literally chased after me to catch up to me because I was trying to run away from him. But once I realized that I would not be able to outrun him and that he just kept calling my name and asking me to stop so he could speak to me, I decided to turn around and told him that I would call the cops if he tried to do anything funny. He seemed shocked by that reaction and told me that he just wanted to speak to me about the divorce. I told him that this was final and I was not going to allow Hannah to go back to him, and he started looking even more confused because he told me that apparently, the divorce had been his idea. Then, it was my turn to be shocked because that was not what I had been expecting. Anyway, after a conversation with him, I realized that Hannah had fed me a bunch of lies, and my mother had probably been in on it. He said the night that Hannah had run away from home without telling him, he had actually suggested that they get a divorce because he had found out that she had apparently been having an affair with one of her co-workers. He had spotted them together after work when he had gone to surprise her at her office and, after that, there was no way that he could stay with her. So he was the one who had suggested the divorce and she had been very against it and they had ended up in a fight. She wanted to work things out and said that she was willing to end the relationship with the other guy and give their marriage a second chance, but Jacob just wanted to leave because he did not think he could trust her ever again. He said that he had been suspecting that she had been having an affair for quite some time and he had just been proven right that day. He had wanted to speak to her about it the next day and had even thought that he was going to offer to move out of the house so she could live there on her own, but when he woke up the next day, she was nowhere to be found. When he tried to contact her, she blocked him. And he couldn't get through to her in any other way either. I had also blocked him and so had our mother. And all her friends had also blocked him, so he literally couldn't talk to anybody else. And then, he received the divorce papers, and the terms of the petition shocked him because she was demanding a lot of things that he did not think she was entitled to. She was demanding an insane amount of settlement and alimony, and he thought that it was bizarre that she felt she was entitled to any of this since they had pretty much been making the same kind of money. Besides, she had been cheating on him so that disqualified her from getting anything out of the divorce at all, and she should just count herself lucky that he was willing to move out while they were getting divorced, even though he had paid the rent for the entire month. Now to be fair, I did not know about the terms of the petition because I had just put Hannah in touch with the attorney, but I hadn't actually bothered to go over the papers with her. I figured that she was in good hands, I didn't need to worry about any of that. And even if I had known about the terms of the petition, and what she was demanding, I probably wouldn't have found anything wrong with it because I had believed that Hannah was the one being abused by Jacob and so, she was entitled to whatever she demanded. But after finding out what was really going on with Jacob, I started thinking differently. Initially, I refused to believe him, but then, he showed me a bunch of screenshots and a lot of proof. Hannah had left her laptop back at home, which is so incredibly stupid because that allowed Jacob to get access to all the messages that she had been hiding from him so far, and I could see months and months of messages between her and the guy she had been having an affair with, and that proved Jacob's story to be true. So I was pretty confused about what to do after finding out the truth, and I just apologized to Jacob for making him run after me and embarrassing himself like that. But he told me that he just wanted to talk to me so I could explain to Hannah that he did not want anything out of the divorce, and it would only be fair if she changed the terms of the petition to be more reasonable as well because he did not want any trouble and just wanted this to be over as soon as possible. So I agreed, and then when I went back home, I confronted Hannah about this, and she literally denied everything. Even after I told her that I had run into Jacob, and he had shown me all the proof that confirmed his story, she started accusing me of trusting some random stranger over me. Except that Jacob is not some random stranger, we had interacted quite a few times, and when she had first come to me, it did seem quite out of character for him because he was a very soft-spoken and gentle guy. Even though Hannah wouldn't speak to me at any family gatherings or parties, he would always be polite to me and I just thought that it was really nice of him. I'm not saying that guys like that cannot be abusive, but from whatever conversations we have had so far over the years, it seemed unlikely that he would turn out to be like this. I really wanted to believe her, but I knew she had a penchant for manipulation and lying because that's how she used to get out of trouble in high school. So honestly, even though she is my sister, I wouldn't put it past her. And the way she got so defensive when I confronted her, it just made me even more sure what Jacob was saying was the truth, and she had been lying to me through her teeth. So I told her to leave, and after a lot of fighting, she finally left. After she left, she probably went to our mother's house. Half an hour later, I received a phone call from my mother, and I could hear her crying in the background. My mother was berating me for trusting Jacob over her, but I told her that I didn't want to argue about this anymore since I was pretty exhausted, and my mother said that she did not want to speak to me anymore. I told her that I was fine with that, and since then, we haven't spoken. About 2 days back, Jacob reached out to me since I had unblocked him and told me that he was collecting testimonials from everybody who knew the two of them to prove that none of the claims that Hannah was making against him were true in the slightest, and he said that my testimonial would hold a lot of value because I was literally her sister, and if even I was speaking out in his favor, it would be great. He said that there was no pressure, but I wanted to do this because I wanted to stand up for the right thing. Since apparently, Hannah had refused to change the terms of the petition, and since my friend's dad had refused to work with her, they switched to another lawyer and demanded the same things, and even went on to claim that apparently, Jacob had indeed been abusive, and that was why she had resorted to cheating. So technically, according to her, this was all his fault and it was just so convenient for her. It was incredibly infuriating, and I hated the fact that she had played me for a fool in the beginning. And that was why I agreed to testify against Hannah. So yesterday, I finally spoke up in his favor while they were in their mediation session, and once that was done, I felt pretty relieved. I knew that I had done what was right, but evidently, my mother and Hannah do not share my sentiments because they were more than pissed today. My mother actually called me up in the morning and asked me what I was thinking, testifying against Hannah, my biological sister. I told her very plainly that I did what I knew was the right thing to do, and now that it was done, there was no point in trying to fight with me over this. But my mother was not going to see sense, so she just kept yelling at me and actually even threatened me, saying that she was now going to ruin my life. It's interesting how she said that, but I know that she literally has no way to do it. And I said that she could try, but she really couldn't ruin my life, even if she tried to. That's when she started crying and said that I deserved it because I had sabotaged my sister when I could have just kept my mouth shut instead of going out of my way to speak up against her. She seemed to be really upset and I could even hear Hannah in the background, screaming at my mother to hang up because apparently, it was hopeless to speak to me since I couldn't think about anybody apart from myself and my false sense of superiority. Hannah was saying that apparently, the only reason I had done this was to appease my overinflated sense of ego, and I thought that it was a bit extreme. So Ida for testifying against my sister in her divorce case? Edit. A lot of people have been asking me why Hannah had come to stay with me when she could have gone to her mother, and honestly, I don't know. I guess she was telling the truth about that bit, that maybe our mother had really given her bad advice and told her to stick it out with Jacob. Or maybe she wanted me on her side during the divorce or something? That would be my other case since I can't think of any other reason for her to want to come live with me after 6 years of barely even speaking to each other. Either way, I'm pretty sure it was not for no reason. She and my mother are the kind of people who do things for no reason, so I'm sure that she was either here to have me on her side during the divorce. Maybe she was trying to get financial help from me and being with me would be the best way to reconnect. I'm not sure about their reasons right now, but I'll find out eventually. Update 1. It has been 8 days since I last spoke to my mother and Hannah. After the phone call, I blocked them because the things that they had said were very upsetting, and I didn't want to interact with them any further. And most of the comments said that blocking them would be the best way to go. So I took the advice that you guys gave me. But after a couple of days of that phone call, I started receiving a lot of hate mail from weird email addresses, and I figured out that this had to be them. They were ultra specific about everything as well. They called me egoistic and selfish and said that I did not deserve to be happy. And they also said that my father would have hated me today. I think that was taking a tad bit too far, but honestly, I'm not even surprised that they are doing such things. I just don't understand what is the point of doing all this? It's not like sending me hate mail is somehow going to help them in the course of the divorce. I think it might even make it worse for her in case I decide to send it to and then he can use it against her, just to show the kind of person that she is. The anger is just getting to their head and making them make bad decisions, but the comment about my dad really got to me. I had been ignoring their emails, but after that one, I decided to reach out to Hannah on her work email and tell her that if she didn't stop doing this, I would make things much worse for her than I already had. And I was serious about it. So she responded to me by telling me to unblock her if I had the guts to do it, instead of acting like such a coward. I don't understand what was so cowardly about blocking her. I just don't want to speak to either of them. And after what they said, I think it was perfectly fair. Anyway, I did unblock her and we got on a phone call. She told me that they had indeed been the ones behind the mail, but apparently, they had their reasons for it. When I asked her what these so-called reasons were, she told me that she knew that I would get flustered and reach out to her, and one conversation with me is all that she needed. Because now she said that, apparently I had a chance to make it up to her since the divorce negotiations were still ongoing. All I had to do was testify for her this time and say that Jacob had pressured me into testifying against her the first time around, taking advantage of our strained relationship and manipulating me with his lies. I was dumbstruck that she thought I would even consider this. For starters, for the past 6 years, we have not been on good terms, and even when I thought I would be her friend and welcome her into my home, she decided to tell me such disgusting lies about her marriage and herself. I reminded her of these things and said that if she had just not even bothered to drag me into any of this, I probably wouldn't even have testified against her. I would have just stayed out of it and not said anything, but because she lied to me, I decided to help Jacob out. And this is all her own fault, so I was not in the wrong anywhere. Since I wasn't even wrong, I did not need to make it up to her. Then I told her that she had been right about those emails bothering me, and she had been right that I would get flustered and unblock her to talk to her about it. I'll have to give her that. She was able to predict correctly what was going to happen. But then, I told her that after this, she tried anything with me, then I would not hesitate in going to Jacob with these emails and helping him out even more to prove that Hannah was not a woman of strong character, like she was trying to portray herself, but was a sly, manipulative and cunning piece of work. Hannah then started screaming at me and said that I was not going to do any such things, and if I did, she was going to make sure that I paid for it. Again, I don't think she and my mother have the power to ruin my life or make me pay for it like they claim they do. They haven't even known me properly, so it's not like they can find any dirt on me. I've had a very normal life, and unlike them, I never do anything that can get me into trouble later. I like to be honest and have a clear conscience, so even if they try to dig something up, they won't be able to find any dirt on me. So all their threats, they really don't scare me. I just wished her the best of luck, ended the phone call while she was still trying to talk to me, and blocked her yet again. And this time, I have made up my mind that I am not unblocking this woman to speak to her under any circumstances. I'll go see them in person and speak to them if need be, but I'm definitely not unblocking them, not after this. Update 2. So it's been a couple of days since I last spoke to my sister, and I guess, if you can't find dirt on somebody, you can just make something up and then post it online. I received word from several relatives that apparently, my mother and Hannah had been posting multiple stories about me to defame me. All falsified stories back from high school, so nobody could prove it either. Apparently, back when we were in high school, I was a total jerk to Hannah, and I was always jealous of the fact that she was more popular than me, so I would constantly talk crap about her and try to pull her down when she was at home while Hannah always tried to be friends with me. They made me out to be some villain and said a lot of cruel things that I don't even want to get into because it's not worth it, but I received screenshots of those posts and as soon as I saw them, my blood literally started boiling. I can't even file a defamation lawsuit against them because it's just their word against mine right now and I'm not even sure if this actually counts as defamation, but I sure feel pretty annoyed. I'm pretty sure I have to lose something tangible to take action against them, I think. Until that happens, it's just them talking crap about me online. I did send them a warning from my email because I had them blocked everywhere else and said that if they didn't take it down, I would be forced to take action. They haven't taken it down yet because I guess they're not scared enough. But I have been in talks with an attorney and I think if we do send them a legal notice, they might stop. Anyway, I was also able to figure out exactly why Hannah had come to me all those days ago instead of going to live with Mom. I had to talk with Jacob about all of this since he had reached out to tell me that the proceedings were going in his favor so far and he wanted to thank me for testifying against Hannah. I took that opportunity to ask him if he had any idea why Hannah had come to me and he told me that in spite of the fact that we were not on good terms for a really long time, she always seems to speak highly of me when it comes to work. She was not wrong about that. I do have a great career ahead of me and I don't mean to sound boastful but I make more money than most people my age. Apparently, Jacob told me that she had been planning on starting a business and the reason she chose to come to me might have been because she wanted to win me over the course of the divorce and then have me fund her after it was all finalized. He was guessing the only reason that she was hungry for so much money out of the divorce was because she wanted to fund her lifestyle. The guy that she had been having an affair with earlier was a pretty rich guy, since he was a senior in her workplace and he only found out about it recently. After finding this out, everything makes sense. Of course, she's after the money, I should have known right from the beginning. Anyway, everything is finally adding up now. And if she and my mom don't take down the posts as soon as possible, I'm gonna have to send them a notice and actually take action against them. Whether I win the lawsuit or not, or if it has even been valid, that doesn't make a difference to me. But I'm gonna try my best to get them to take it down. Update 3. Hey, so it has been 1 week since my last update, and luckily, one legal notice from my lawyer was all it took for them to take it down. I guess with the way that the divorce was going in Jacob's favor, Hannah did not want to risk anything else. So they took it all down. Also, after the last update, a lot of you had asked me what exactly they had said in those posts, and at the time, I did not want to get into them. But anyway, they had basically tried to make me out to be the villain of Hannah's life. They said that apparently, I had bullied her throughout her life, and I would speak about her body negatively and shame her for the way she looked. For the record, I would never do that to anybody else since I have had it happen to me, and it's not very nice. I guess that's the reason they even said that because they knew I'm a huge advocate for body positivity and saying that about me would ruin my image. Not only that, they also said that apparently had tried to hit on all of her boyfriends back when we were living together because I couldn't stand the fact that she was getting male attention and I wasn't. And apparently, that has not changed since I'm still trying to get Jacob on my side. It's so ridiculous and disgusting for them to even say that. I can't even imagine them thinking such things, and then believing that it's okay to post it. Anyway, it was mostly such nasty things about me and now they've taken it all down, so I'm okay. I was a little disappointed that they took it down so easily since I really wanted to fight it out and teach them a lesson. But oh well, I'm glad that I don't have to get into the drama now. I can just focus on my own life now and move on from all of this. Both of them are still blocked, and they are going to remain blocked for a really long time. That's the way it should be, and I know if my dad was alive today, this is the exact advice he would have given me as well.